Hello, Jack McCarthy here, the emotional detox coach. And as you know, I empower people to clear their minds, their emotional baggage, so they can find instant relief with breathwork and change their lives. Now, I wanted to share a quick training today because something came to mind to share with you, and it's about clearing the emotional baggage as a thing that keeps you stuck. And you're going to love this if you've heard the saying, I might be paraphrasing, this too shall pass. Now, I'd love to hear from you if you know the origin of this statement, because there's always a bit of history in education. And the reason why I want to talk about this is in the studio at Dutchie's Pilates, where I teach at my home reformer Pilates studio, and in my breathwork sessions, these like one-liners, these are like little golden nuggets that help us shift and move through our pain and suffering. However, they can also keep us stuck because they may miss key elements. So this too shall pass. This may lead you to have a different behavior, like maybe just putting up with what you're experiencing. So what are you going through right now? Is it emotional issues with relationships? Is it financial stress? Is it pain in your body? Is it an injury you've just faced, or a shock about your health, or a death of a loved one, or a sudden stressful experience at work? It could be something with pets. It could be anything that's important to you that you value. What is it that you're going through right now that's activating stress or pain or anxiety in your body or in your mind, in your environment? And if you were to just headline, this too shall pass, great, thanks for the advice, right? If someone would say that. And I say this with gentleness and compassion from a heart-centered place, because there's a good intention behind this. If someone says to you, oh, it'll be all right, you'll get over it, or you'll be all right, this will pass, in no time you'll be on the next thing, right? There's ways that we can try and make ourselves feel better with the way we think and the way we communicate, but it's missing something. It's missing something. So if you're going through an injury and it's persisting and it's not healing as fast as you'd like it to, and it really affects your mental health, it affects your ability to train and exercise, it affects your ability to live and be functional around the home, you might not be able to do as much as you'd like to when you're not injured. So this too shall pass. Sure, it can be soothing in some regard, but it can also activate a trigger in most of you as well. It's going to trigger annoyance, irritation, fear, sadness, because in that moment, it hasn't passed. In that moment, you're still in the thick of it. In that moment, you're still almost like feeling like you're drowning in the situation that you're in. It hasn't passed yet. That is really important to acknowledge. It hasn't passed yet. So this too shall pass is giving you like a fantasy of the future of when it's all good and better. But again, it's taking you out of the present moment. And the healing is in the feeling. And in the present moment is when you feel all the stuff you don't want to feel first. So if you're feeling pain and stress and anxiety and discomfort and agitation and resistance and all the things that are in this moment now, you need to heal the feel first. And then it will pass. So I would like to suggest, if you're open to just trying this idea on for a moment, this too shall pass unless you process your emotional baggage. I've just written it as it came through after a walk this morning. This too shall pass unless you process the emotional baggage. In other words, if you don't process your emotional baggage, which means a really beautiful, pretty, or not so threatening feeling of trauma, and at the end of the day, trauma is not threatening when you work with it safely and gently. I digress. This too shall pass unless you process the emotional baggage. That basically means what will soon pass will then be repeated, because what you run away from comes back around again. You'll end up running into it. So this too shall pass if you process your emotional baggage. It's coming up for you now. Whatever it is that you're facing, it's coming up for you so you can move through the emotional process, not just through the mental and the physical. Please hear this. I hope you hear this. This too shall pass if you process your emotional baggage. This shall run around and full circle come back at you again if you don't. Okay? Let's give an example. Say relationships. Let me give you a really personal example. So as a young girl, I still am highly sensitive, but I feel a lot more confident with it now. And I would be really scared of any loud, aggressive anger. I would witness some of it at my dad's cricket club when the guys would all drink a bit too much and we stayed maybe a bit late, and that was time for mum to take us home. And the boys would get into a bit of a tiff and a fight, and they end up having a brawl, which from an adult perspective, it was maintained, it was fine. But for me as a young girl, I witnessed that aggression, loud noise, anger, punching, fighting, all of that. Totally not okay. And what I learned from that scene, or what I remember from it, is anger is scary. Men are scary. Men are aggressive, and anger is not okay. I don't feel safe around that, especially connected with alcohol, right? And so that can be a lasting memory and idea. And then if I was to piggyback that across to other times where anger is showing up in my life, maybe it was when my dad got frustrated about something. It could be the traffic, or reversing the trailer up the driveway, or what's another memory example of frustration like that? That's enough. You get the idea, right? So if I witness any man getting angry and then losing control, which happens, right? Not everyone has learned how to do this work. Not everyone has learned how to process their emotional baggage in a healthy, safe way. So they'll build up their anger on the inside, can't suppress it anymore, and explosion, which is why usually it happens with alcohol, because they've lost their control. They've got all loosey-goosey, right? So energy builds, explosion happens, anger outburst equals, in my young person's experience, unsafe, very scary, and not okay. It's threatening. It's a small t trauma. And so if I continued to withhold my sense of fear around men's anger and outbursts, I'm going to keep repeating that pattern and attracting relationships in my life so that I can finally resolve that feeling of fear with anger. And it will show up in every other relationship, especially with men. So I dated some guys back in the day who had anger issues, and I was still scared of them, but I'd almost fight back as well because I was in a state of stress and a fight-flight response, right? A stress reaction. Other times I'd probably cry and collapse down and do the poor me thing, which is like a collapsed anger. And that was a way to cope. And so now, thank goodness for breathwork, thank goodness to be able to process the unresolved emotional baggage, emotional trauma, so I can find the relief, be able to think clearly again, be centered in myself, and move forward in my life, regardless of what other people's moods and tempers are like. I've got like the secret key, right? So I can hang out with a bloke who's getting angry and leaning into that higher level of simmering to boiling anger, potentially about to outburst, and I feel okay. I feel calm, I feel centered. And I'm talking about loving relationships. I'm not talking about a stranger on the train or out in public. That's different, right? So I still have stuff to work on when it comes to public spaces, but close, emotional, loving relationships, I feel so much more settled and secure in that. So scenes of our childhood, when we've learned anger is unsafe, when we've felt scared and we've decided that anger is, we've made a decision that anger is not safe, and therefore my behavior is to not show anger and also not to be okay around anger. So I'd try to get away from it, or I'd cry, or I'd try and fight it back. Now, this pattern will keep repeating until I deal with it. And I dealt with it, thank goodness. And now my behavior has changed. It is more centered, more calm, more steady. So where is it in your life that you've been repeating a pattern of this too shall pass, and then it repeats, and then it passes, and then it repeats, and then it passes, because you've not dealt with the emotional baggage yet? Yeah? Just ponder. Let me know in the comments, wherever I've posted this. This is going across a few different platforms at the moment. Let me know what has been coming, passing, and repeating again. And what is the emotion you are suppressing? And you may get an idea, or you may have no clue. Let me know. I'm here to support you and guide you through it. Because once you feel, you'll heal. Once you clear the emotional baggage, you will think clearer. You will think clearer. You will take more heart-centered action. You're not going to feel stuck or trapped in your past experiences. You're going to be more present. And when you're more present, you've got more energy. And when you've got more energy, you can do more things that you enjoy. So you can change your life once you've cleared your emotional baggage. And you can clear your emotional baggage even if the moment has happened in the past and you can't go back into the past to change it. The healing is in the feeling, and it happens all now. So this too shall pass if you process your emotional baggage. This won't pass if you don't. So are you ready to clear emotional baggage and find instant relief with breathwork? I'm so here for you. I'm really feeling quite passionate about this because I've just come off a session with a beautiful client who's local to me. She comes into the studio and we do a session every 2 weeks, and she's had some beautiful shifts, and it's so inspiring to feel the shifts from those I'm working with and to receive these little insights that I now get to share with you and hopefully inspire you to begin this journey or continue it if you've not felt the shifts in the past before. And with that in mind, if you would like to work with me, I do have 2 spaces available at the moment, and the offer is to save $100 when you book on a regular basis. So if you're booking weekly or fortnightly, you get to save $100 per session. Otherwise, casual sessions are $444. Okay, so I'll put a link in. Let's book a call. Let's see if we're a good fit and we get started.